Hello, family, and welcome to another episode of Role Model Makers Experts Cafe. I'm your host, Dr. L, the Parent Whisperer. And today with me, I have an amazing human being, an amazing coach that I've had the opportunity to interact with and see. And I wanted to introduce him to you. His name is Chuck Barnard. And I hope I said that right. Did I say that right, Coach Chuck?
You got it. Perfect.
Awesome. Awesome. Very
Perfect.
good. Um, Coach, can you tell us a little bit more about your topic today and what you focus on and why this should be something that should be on the radar for parents and
Yeah,
people?
it's really all about mindset. And there in the education field, education realm, there's a lot of talk about growth mindset and the importance of that. And what growth mindset really essentially is, it's people who have that growth mindset will tend to persevere. They don't get stuck in the negativity. Um, and sadly, today, a lot of teenagers, adults as well, but teenagers in particular, have what we would call a fixed mindset. And one of the sad consequences of that also is people with a fixed mindset tend to be less likely to deal well with the stress, develop more anxiety, depression, et cetera. And we're seeing a whole lot of that with today's teens.
Right.
So I often actually use the term mindsets of a champion because I find it a little more encompassing. The growth mindset is the whole focus is really on the idea that your intelligence isn't fixed, right? Its brain's constantly expanding and growing. And but I think it goes beyond just your intelligence, right? So we do a lot with trying to help people discover their limiting beliefs so that they can learn how to let go of those and then reach their full potential.
Coach Chuck, I actually really like the fact that you're talking about the growth mindset because for many people, it's for them the success in this field is survivorship and resilience, which equally important, but we're going beyond that. This is not just about surviving something. This is not just about being resilient to change, which inevitably comes to everybody's life. This is something that is a personal development that is sustainable through the entire life. So let's talk about it because you mentioned anxiety and depression. I know that some of these things happen when people feel out of control, like their life is not in their control. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. So what I really kind of focus on, and I have programs for families and also through schools. And like when I go into a school, we have programs for the students, obviously, but also parents and staff. And there's really three essential mindsets I talk about and teach about. And there's the growth mindset, and the flip side of that coin is the fixed mindset. But then there's the stress is enhancing mindset. And then what I alluded to earlier is this idea of a mindset of a champion. But beyond just teaching about those, we talk about how to, if you're going to shift your mindset or train your mindset, you're really going through 5 shifts in thinking or 5 stages. So, we go through the 5 stages are quickly. It's take responsibility, clean up your past. A term I coined is apply heat to your life, which is habit, emotion, attitude training. Use the power of synergy, and then turn those habits into rituals. So you really got to take people through those 5-step process. And as you kind of said, when those habits around learning to manage your emotions, which helps shape your attitude and your beliefs, when you are in control of those, it goes, that's a lifelong skill set. And it's the training part that I constantly talk about is, it's not like you go through a weekend and, oh, I'm trained. This is an ongoing process, which is why those habits are so crucial, because you're constantly trying to master those. And it's a process. It's a process.
I have two questions for you because I have
Yeah.
ADHD and I can't keep just one question. But the two questions I have, you mentioned schools. So is this something that is age specific, or you started as early as you can? What would be a good time to discuss such a thing, such a topic with children or implement it? So that's the first question. But the second question is, how did you get involved in all of this in the first place?
Yeah. All right. Well, let me try to answer that first one first, and then I'll come back. Um, in terms of like developing the habits and all that type of thing, you obviously want to start that kind of young. But my specific program is targeted towards teenagers. I worked for years in public schools, primarily with middle school students, but now I'm doing even more with high school students. Part of the reason for my focus there is this idea of cleaning up the past and all is giving them those skills, because when you're young, there's things, your brain will interpret things that happen to you, and if you're too young, it kind of stores it because you aren't really old enough to process and kind of deal with it. So as they become more mature, it's time to teach them the skills on how to deal with that. So specifically, I focus on teenagers. It's just the right time developmentally and with the things we teach.
Sure.
How I got into that it's a long story, but I'll give the abridged version. When I got out of college, the direction I was headed, well, it took a turn. Circumstances kind of came up, and at that time, Tony Robbins was a young guy, and he had his new book, Unlimited Power, that was out, and I read it. This was the fall after I graduated from college, and I was like, "Wow, this stuff's awesome! I need to learn about this." So by the end of 1987, I actually had gone out and gotten training and ended up getting certified in neurolinguistic programming. And I was like going to come back to my home state of Maine and just set the world on fire, And well, I wasn't prepared to try to run a business. I made lots of mistakes that end. But the one thing I really enjoyed doing was these workshops I would give to students. A lot of times they were student athletes. I wasn't really making much money, which, that's kind of something you need to be able to do. And one thing led to another, and I ended up getting into education. And because of this background I had in neurolinguistic programming, and eventually I got certified in advanced behavioral modeling, timeline therapy, hypnotherapy. Because of that background, I ended up getting these positions working with teenagers who had some really emotional and behavioral challenges. And I ended up starting my own day treatment program in my old hometown. And then for 18 years, I worked in a affluent suburb of the city I live in now. And it was an alternative program. But the bottom line was, while in that setting we were, teaching academics, our real work was about trying to help these kids shift their mindset, because undoubtedly they all essentially had that fixed mindset. They would give up on themselves easy. They had a whole lot of negative beliefs about who they were as learners, as people. And our job was to kind of break those down and help them develop some new ones.
Definitely. I love that story. I love the fact that there's so many features of what you just said that is this journey of many teenagers actually learning to become young adults. They make mistakes and they try things and then they find surprises that takes them in new directions. So it's very rich, that story. And the fact that no good effort goes wasted, the things that you pick up along the way always come back and they serve a purpose in your life. So really cool to see that. You mentioned teenagers, and of course, like we just said, it's a time where they're kind of developing their identity. They're getting ready to leave the nest. What are some of the challenges that you're finding with parents or teens that are coming to you?
Yeah, the I talk a lot about these limiting beliefs and the self-identity issue, and that really is the crux of a lot of the issues, is the negativity that they end up seeing and hearing. And teenagers, when you start like the adolescence on up, they don't have a lot of self-confidence. They're going through all that, and if it's not fed well, then those can become self-fulfilling prophecies, right? So, and then it's a spiral. There's a student who may be on an extreme end of this, but it illustrates the point well. Jimmy, we'll call him Jimmy, but he had a behavioral plan, one-to-one person, and he was regularly, and this had gone on for a long time, had regularly been getting kicked out of classes. And he wasn't a bully. He wasn't violent. He was just a pain in the butt. So in my first meeting with him, sure enough, he exhibits all those behaviors that the report said that I would see, and he's going to have to leave the classroom. And it's like, Jimmy, why are you such a pain in the butt? And he looked at me totally serious, deadpan, because that's what I am.
Hmm.
And I went, oh, how did you decide that? And you could kind of see him go, a little confused. I didn't decide that. That's just what I am. And I said, oh, so you chose to believe a lie. And in that little interaction, I was able to, you ask a question that interrupts that pattern for a minute, like he's what? And then I could embed that new suggestion that, oh, that's just a lie. And that's kind of what I try to teach the parent and staff side is if you can do that and learn how to do that regularly, then maybe some of those beliefs don't become an identity, because once they're an identity, then you're gonna do whatever you need to keep your identity. So it didn't matter his behavioral plan. He was going to keep being a pain in the butt because inside that's who he was.
Wow.
So that's kind of an extreme end, but I see that a lot. Kids, I'm not smart enough, not pretty enough, not athletic enough, not da 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 da.
I'm not good in math, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's powerful. That's really amazing. And this is not just related to one individual. I want you guys to remember this, that these individuals later on to become parts of companies, parts of community, even leaders in countries and places. And those limiting beliefs shape the policies, shape that the way that community comes forward or interacts with its citizens. So really, really important to make sure that we eradicate these things as early as possible. And like you said, in a constructive and in a way that is sustainable, part of our habits. So another thing about adolescents and teenagers is that's the age where they're actually starting to set their habits. So really, really important to address that.
Yeah. Habits are, I was actually just a couple of days ago, I was listening to a podcast talking about habits, and I think it was Jim Clear, who's the author of Atomic Habits, and he had made a point that is kind of some of the things I talk about is your habits help reinforce or create the beliefs, and they just can become a positive cycle.
Right.
So I can show, and I do, how to, one, eliminate negative beliefs, how to build positive beliefs, but it goes back to those habits. We want to get those habits in place so they can reinforce those beliefs through their actions. And that's where, it really kind of, once that's done, it really hits home and takes off.
So Chuck, what would be your one tip or suggestion that could go out to the kids, their parents, and their educators? What would be the one thing that you would suggest?
The importance of being positive and understanding your language and getting all the tools you can. That how, because of my background in NLP, I kind of learned ways you can structure your language. But I'll tell another brief story that comes from athletics, but it illustrates the point again. A well-meaning father with his son, they're baseball fans and players. His son was a baseball player, and from an early age, he's like, when they were going, competition, you can't let them get in your head. You can't let them think they're better than you. So he's trying to build his son up, but by saying can't let them think they're better than you, the son was hearing they're better than me. They're better than me. So when he got to college, he was a good athlete, but in that unconscious mind was that voice, they're better than you, they're better than you. And he didn't do very well for 2 years. And then and he projected confidence, right? It was kind of buried. He kind of, he tried to have that swag and all, but inside he wasn't.
It wasn't authentic.
Right, exactly. And once we pulled that out and were able to release that, the last 2 years of college, he didn't lose a game, and he got the chance to play professionally for 3 years.
Wow.
So, but that language, meaning is well-meaning, it was intent, but it's important to understand that positivity is really, really valuable.
Beautiful. Wow. Powerful. Coach Chuck, how can people find out more about you? I know this topic can get deep, and like you said, like looking for resources, looking for support is really actually important in this.
Yeah, the easiest way is just to go to my personal website, which is coachchuck360.com. And there you can find all my social media links. There's some videos there, information. And that's probably the easiest way. There's a contact section that would have you could text me, email me, schedule a time where we can kind of talk about the different programs. Everything is all in one place. That's coachchuck360.com.
Awesome. Guys, yeah, I've checked that website, guys. It's really fun to see how it's organized. I think we could all learn something about the organization of Coach Chuck's website. So definitely go ahead and check it out. Also role model this behavior, that it's okay not to have all the answers, that there are well-intended people out there that can support us, that we don't have to do all the heavy lifting ourselves, right? So please make sure that you connect to Coach Chuck. Please make sure that you connect to us by subscribing to this channel so you get notified of all the experts that we bring forward to you guys and all the amazing gifts and expertise that they bring on this channel. Coach Chuck, I really appreciate everything that you've said. A lot of key points. I probably would have to go back and review some of it because there's some hidden gems there. Any final words for our audience members before we finish today?
I just really appreciated you giving me the time, the opportunity, and parent of 4 kids myself, and I've kind of experienced it. It's our kids come with no instruction manual, right? But there are definitely certain principles that we can learn how to use, and then those principles have some built-in flexibility so we can begin to try to navigate the path. But it's so rewarding, but it can be awfully challenging at times too. All of us who have kids understand that. So
I love that. Awesome. Well said. Thank you so much. I appreciate giving of your busy time and schedule to be here with us. Guys, we really appreciated you being here with us today. Please make sure you see us on another episode. Until then, cheers.